This morning on Houston Newsmakers, we'll spend the whole program with Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. It's been almost 5 months since Mayor Turner was inaugurated as the mayor of this great city, and right away there were issues to confront and decisions to be made. Potholes were and still are high on the list, but many other challenges have emerged to demand the mayor's time and focus. Houston's historic tax day floods have moved to the top of the agenda, along with finding a way to erase a staggering budget deficit. We'll talk about that and more and answer some of your questions on this morning's special edition of Houston Newsmakers with Mayor Sylvester Turner.
On KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
Next week will mark 5 months in office for Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. To say that it's been a full 5 months would be an understatement. Good morning, Mayor Turner.
Good morning. Good morning.
It seems like only yesterday we were having our conversation the morning after you were elected as mayor.
December 13th.
Yep.
I shall not forget. I enjoy being with you then. I enjoy being with you now.
Well, lots happened, certainly. As you stepped into that role, how was the reality been as opposed to the expectation when you were taking the role?
You know, it was a quick start, and it hasn't stopped. There's been a lot of things have taken place over the last, 4.5 months. But things have been good. And this is an incredible city. Yeah, it has some incredible challenges, but all of those lead to great opportunities too.
One of the things you did right off the bat is you made potholes a priority. Now, yeah. I'm going to guess that a couple of years ago when you were thinking about running for mayor, that potholes might not have been on the...
It was not at the top of the list. It was not at the top of the list.
But that's something the constituents pretty much said, okay, you need to take care of this. Was that kind of like your first litmus test that you may have given yourself to kind of jump on? You know,
for the 22 months I was on the campaign trail, I heard more about potholes and the horrible shape of the streets than anything else. And I thought it was, there was something that needed to be addressed sooner rather than later. And I had talked with the people in Public Works and talked about repairing and assessing and repairing potholes by the next business day. I asked them whether or not we could do it. They said we could, and but I gave myself a 2 weeks window, and we ended up bringing all the departments together: Public Works, 311, the Mayor's Citizens Assistance Office, the Technology Department, and designed a system that was seamless, much more efficient. We tested it for 2 weeks. And I will tell you, some 3.5, 4 months later, the employees, guys and gals, I should say, Public Works, they have assessed and repaired over 16,500 potholes, defined by 5 feet by 5 feet, not 2 feet by 2 feet.
Okay.
And they have done that 95% of the time by the next business day.
That sounds like success.
Well, but I want to give the credit to those city employees, the thousands of city employees that get up every morning, been out on the streets, repairing the streets. And now we're dealing with more serious street repair.
Right.
Because potholes is just a temporary fix.
Right.
But now we're fixing the panel replacement, the skid patches, repaving the streets. But I thought it was important for people to see that their government can work for them, can be responsive, and can do it timely.
I want to get back to some of the challenges of your first few months, but first I want to get to the tax day floods. That was an historic flooding event that rainfall hammered the Houston region. You've had a chance now to reflect on that event a bit now. How do you look back and how do you consider the way the city responded and the way that the city interacted with Harris County officials? You know,
the collaboration between the city and the county is pretty good. I certainly want to extend my thanks to County Judge Ed Emmett and all the commissioners. We worked well together. And it was just not a flood that hit the Houston area, it hit the region. It hit Harris County and 8 other counties as well. And so in terms of the collaboration between the county and the city, I thought that was exceptional. In terms of preparation, the flooding was all over, from the north side to Spring Branch to the Braeswood, Westbury area. So it did point out that we do need more assets. We do need more high water rescue vehicles and things of that nature, and we're doing an assessment of that right now. But on balance, I thought the city's response was terrific, especially, and I factor in not only police and fire and Public Works, but also factor in neighbors helping neighbors, strangers helping one another. The response from the faith-based, the church community, was exceptional. The response from individuals that just did not know one another but recognized the need and came to assist was exceptional. So I thought it showcased Houston at its finest. And then the contribution to the Greater Houston Storm Relief Fund has been exceptional, assisting people in their moment of crisis.
Talking about the flooding issue, Congressman Al Green wanted to be here for this program, but he had to be in Washington at the time we were taping this. But he came on and we talked about a bill that he's pushing for now that's going to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars in Houston to deal with this flooding issue. I wanted you to look at, here's part of that segment we taped.
I have colleagues who are helping out, by the way. This is a bipartisan piece of legislation. Congressman Culberson's on board, Jackson Lee's on board, Gene Green was one of the original co-sponsors of it. And this legislation, H.R. 5025, would allow us to complete projects that are already on the drawing board that are there to prevent flooding in Houston, Harris County. It's about $311 million. Now, we can spend that money now or we can spend it later. The Memorial Day flood cost us about $3 billion. The Tax Day flood, the most recent one, cost us about $5 billion. That's $8 billion. That $8 billion is 25 times the $311 million we would spend in prevention. So that's where we're headed. Prevention won't eliminate, it will mitigate. I don't know that we'll ever eliminate all flooding.
Has money been in the pipeline for these projects anyway? I know there's been several that are ongoing.
Yes, money has been in the pipeline for these projects, but it's time for us to accelerate the pace. It really is time to get these done. The Harris County Flood Control District projects and prognosticates that if we do this, we can bring jobs, more than 6,000 jobs, that we can save billions over the long run by virtue of using the prevention, and we can even save lives.
Well, on paper, this sounds like a great no-brainer, but of course anything that's in Washington, D.C. is not necessarily fall that way. So what are the hurdles between now and getting it passed and getting money coming then when we can start celebrating about that money coming?
Excellent question. There are many ways to get this done. We can get it done. If we had all of the leadership to agree, we could do it next week. That likelihood of that happening, not good. But we can continue with this bill, which is an emergency supplemental. It's not an earmark. Earmarks are out in Washington now. But this emergency supplemental is something similar to what we did with Sandy on the East Coast, similar to what we did with Katrina, where we accorded over $100 billion. It's a means by which we can pass a law to allow this to happen. And if we can get enough people, 218 or more, to vote for it, then we can get it done. But before we can vote for it, we got to get it to the floor. That's why we're honored to have bipartisan support for it. By the way, the business community is on board with it as well.
You can see the rest of the Newsmaker segment with Congressman Green on Newsmaker's page of clicktohouston.com. What are your thoughts about the congressman and the Congressman Greens, Al and Gene, who've pushed this bill? I'm sure you're aware of that effort. What are your comments about what he's trying to do?
Well, you know, I certainly want to thank them for their effort. I think it's a very significant step in the right direction. You can't address or mitigate flooding without adequate resources. For example, Project Braze. That project has been delayed until 2021. It's a reimbursement program in which the Harris County Flood Control District, they do the work first and then they go to get reimbursed from the feds. But the money has been delayed. So by providing the additional dollars, Project Braze, which deals with that whole Brazewood, Westbury area, that project can be sped up and fewer homes would have flooded. So that's significant. Many of our bayous, for example, while they're banks, we do need more detention centers, basins in the city of Houston. The Willow Water Hole, for example, that's scheduled. There are 4 detention basins that need to be built there. That needs to be built out. That will help with flooding. And you know, just last week, I appointed Steve Costello, former city councilman, an engineer, to be the flood czar for the city of Houston, to pull all of these resources and to work with all the different parties to come up with strategies to deal with flooding on the short-term and long-term basis, to mitigate the risk. You know, you can never make the claim that you're going to eliminate flooding in its entirety, but certainly I think the people in the city expect government and the private sector to do everything we can to mitigate the risk of flooding.
Well, Sylvester, Mayor Turner, thank you so far. I want to let you know we'll continue to talk with Mayor Turner here. We're going to talk about the challenges of balancing the budget. That's not a tiny challenge, is it? The shared sacrifice being advocated by the mayor, how deep those cuts might be, what does it mean for layoffs, reduced services perhaps? We'll talk about that and much more when Houston Newsmakers continues. Welcome back to Houston Newsmakers. Special guest, Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. When you came into office, you thought you had maybe a budget deficit of about $126 million before
Yes.
you. Now that's gone up a bit, I understand. Where is it now, and what are you doing to try to make sure that we can balance that budget or at least cut that deficit? When
I started on January the 4th, the indication was it would be about $126 million short. Now we are preparing for a budgetary shortfall of about $160 million. All prices have still remained low. Sales tax have gone down. Collection from property taxes has gone down. We've had some commercial property tax refunds of about $32 million that we did not anticipate. So instead of the budgetary shortfall being $126 million, it is $160 million.
You've advocated cuts across the board except for?
Except for police. We're not laying off any police officers. I would tell you I've already submitted the budget to the members of the City Council. It balances that $160 million. We will eliminate 54 vacant positions. No one is there. We're just going to eliminate those positions permanently. We'll lay off about 40 employees. We have reduced the 2017 budget in comparison to 2016 budget by $82 million. So we've made some cuts in departments. We've refinanced some of the debt. That has helped out. The TIRs, the Tax Increment Reinvestment Districts, they are contributing more, which is a benefit. So on balance, we've made some eliminate. We've cut. We've laid off some people. We've created some efficiencies, refinanced where we could. And the budget that I've submitted to the members of City Council will add more police. Instead of 4 police cadet classes, there will be 5. So for the first time in many years, the number of police officers in the city of Houston is going up and not down. And we maintain a healthy fund balance of 9.2%. Which is above the legally required fund balance of 7.5.
Now your pensions are going to play a role in this at some point in time, are they not? You're still working to try to make sure you can negotiate that at some way, but right now the state legislature is going to play a role in that.
Well, the goal is for me, as the mayor of the city of Houston, to reach a resolution with the employee groups by the end of the year on the unfunded pension obligations. That's the goal. And to the extent we can reach an agreement that will reduce the cost, the annual cost that we contribute to our pension retirement system, reduce the accrued unfunded liability, which is about $5.8 billion. The goal is to reduce that. And if we can reach a resolution by the end of the year, then we will take that resolution to Austin in January and ask the legislature to ratify it.
Okay, in the meantime, you started a program called Turnaround Houston. What's that all about?
That deals with people who are chronically unemployed or people that's coming out of the criminal justice system and they're having a hard time finding a job. It's not a jobs fair. It's a job resource center. It puts people in a better position, remove tattoos, provide them with engineering skills. The Franklin Beauty School, which is 100 years old, will cut their hair or style their hair.
How do they find out about that?
That's a program that they can go to our website with the City of Houston. It's turnaroundhouston.org. And essentially there are 6 resource fairs throughout the city. The second one is coming up on May the 18th.
We have 2 minutes left here for this segment of human trafficking. It has been around for some time.
Yes.
And now you have corralled, and now this is going to be a comprehensive effort from the city and all the other agencies. First time that's happened. Why is it taking so long, and what's it going to entail?
Well, it's about collaboration and working with different components. Very high visible media campaign, working with the taxi cab limousine industry, working with the private sector. It will be the first sort of human trafficking effort of this magnitude in the country, not just in the city of Houston and not just in the state, but we think it will serve as a national model.
The city says they want Uber drivers to be fingerprinted. Uber says we don't want to do that. We're out of here. You've talked to them. Where does that stand? What does it look like that's going to end up?
Well, look, I'm prepared. I want them to stay. I have an Uber app. I want them to stay. I think they provide a vital service. But we can't have them stay at the expense of public safety. So fingerprinting is important. They are currently in New York. They're not telling the people in New York, unless you eliminate fingerprinting, we're going to leave. They're willing to work with New York, and New York requires fingerprinting. Why should Houston be treated any differently?
Gotcha. Well, we're going to continue with Mayor Turner. We're still ahead. Your questions for the mayor on the latest issues, including surrounding Safe Clear, one of the Safe Clear tow companies raided last week, what it means for the company and for the rest of the Safe Clear program. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
Welcome back, Mayor Turner. We were talking about Turnaround Houston. We want to correct a date.
Yeah, I said the next resource fair would be May the 18th. I believe it's going to be May the 26th. But the best way is to pull it up on the City of Houston website on turnaroundhouston.org.
And it's going to be really helpful for people who may think that they're at their wits' end. They may not have an opportunity to go forward. It's kind of ironic we're having that kind of fair at the same time you're having to make cuts. But this is a different category of job, is it not?
Right. I mean, this is about putting people in the best position to find the job opportunities that exist. Look, there are some high-paying jobs in the City of Houston, but there are a lot of Houstonians that are simply not prepared to take advantage of those jobs. The purpose of the Job Resource Fair is to put them in the best position to leverage their abilities to take advantage of those jobs that exist.
Got it. Well, we had something happen this past week. This is spotlights back on the Safe Clear program. I know in council last week there was a decision made to tag a decision on the Safe Clear program. This is after USA Auto Collision was raided. They were accused of running a scam. Question before council is whether or not to revoke that company, that Safe Clear contract. Now that it's not going to come before council next week, what does that mean? What's happening now, and what's your opinion on what's going on with that?
Well, we have an off week next week, so council is not going to meet again until May 25th. I think the issue that was before the city council and with the concerns that some of the city council members raised, we want to make sure that people are given due process. Because just because one has been accused doesn't necessarily mean that one has been found guilty. And so I think the question is, even though HPD, for example, is recommending that the contract be terminated, I think the city council wants to make sure that whatever we do here won't be set a precedent for the next time. You got to have a set of criteria. So you can't say, okay, I don't like this particular person, or a news story was generated on this particular company, so therefore we're going to terminate. What happens about the next case? And people will ask, so what's your criteria? So is your criteria based on when somebody is charged and the public's attention has been aroused? Or is it because the person has violated A, B, C, and D?
Right.
So I think it's important that we have the rationale in place to justify termination or whether or not someone should be suspended or when action should be taken.
So a lot of those folks who came to council who are against this company, their comments will be taken into consideration, but that's not a legal part of this, though. That's just understanding what...
You take all of that into account, and certainly HPD has made a recommendation to the city council, and I placed it on the agenda. Now city council wants to make sure that as we proceed, that we put in place the elements that are needed to terminate a contract when it's presented before city council, so people down the road are not saying, well, you terminated this contract, but you're not terminating this one over here. A
little less than 2 minutes here. Kurt Basquette asks one of the viewers, why do you believe a flood czar is necessary when flooding is typically a county-wide issue and requires a county-wide solution? Won't it might create territorial disputes between Harris County flood and the city, for example?
No, not at all. The reality is that you need someone representing the city that can speak for the city. For example, you have to deal with the TERS, you have to deal with the developers, you have to deal with the super neighborhoods. Those are all entities that squarely fall within the city of Houston. And you need someone who has the sole responsibility with the city of Houston that can interface with the county, with the Harris County Flood Control District, with the U.S. Corps of Engineers, with the state and federal officials. So you have to, and what I am getting from people of the city of Houston, they want to make sure that we are going to move this ball down the road. They're tired of the political rhetoric. They want to see something being done. And that's my responsibility. And I intend to do everything that I need to do to make sure that the city of Houston is doing all that it should be doing in working in collaboration with others to meaningfully, qualitatively address the issue of flooding.
I want to go tell the control room I'm moving forward to Maricel Santabanez, who asked this question about what can the city do to expand public transportation? Traffic is getting worse. I know that's not necessarily, I mean, how do you make that happen so you can expand the public transportation to help make it a little bit easier?
Well, we certainly need to focus now on multimodal forms of transportation. You just can't rely on building roadway. We've tried that paradigm and it's not working, just building roads. We need take a look at commuter rail. We need to take a look at more light rail. We need to find ways to get to the airports. It doesn't always have to be public dollars. It can be the public-private initiatives. We need more bike lanes. More and more people want to ride their bikes. We need to design and build a city that's pedestrian, walkable friendly. More people want to be able to walk to retail, want to be able to walk to their places of employment. So we have to design and build that city right now. It needs to be more multimodal and not just relying on vehicles to get you from point A to point B. And we need more buses as well.
Good deal. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. I got one more question for you. That's going to be coming up right after this break. A look ahead to next week as well when we come back. Now, before we go, because this program is a Sunday morning program, I wanted to end by asking you, Mayor, what role does prayer play in your life as mayor?
Major, I believe in the power of prayer. Every night before I go to bed, I get on my knees. Thank the Lord for bringing me through. Thank the Lord for my family. Pray for my family. Pray for people that I don't know. Pray for this city. You know, the book says that the fervent prayers of the righteous availeth much, and I believe in it. And I appreciate people praying for me. But I also think it's important for you to know how to pray for yourself and to pray for others as well. So I pray for this city, and every decision that I make is guided by prayer. You know, no matter how great you are, I strongly encourage people to believe in something greater than yourself.
Well, I appreciate that, Mayor. We don't often get a chance to talk about that on the show. It's Sunday morning, so I hope people will go ahead and take some of what you said to heart.
Well, thank you,
Mayor. Appreciate you being here. So let's do it again in a few months.
I look forward to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, next week at this time, we're going to be talking with Professor Stephen Kleinberg and the Houston Area Survey from the Kinder Institute of Urban Research. I always look forward to that show. I know you will as well. Have a great day. I'll see you back here again next week. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate you.